Welcome to Moon. It's Britten, and I'm very excited to be sharing this conversation I have for you today with one of my favorite creators in the world in Instagram, Xenia Viray of Myths of Creation. This is a really special conversation. So excited for you to dive in, and I would really love for you to reach out to me and or Xenia to share how this landed with you, because it's pretty I think it's a pretty audacious conversation, and I would love to continue it with anyone who wants to keep talking. Before I introduce Xenia and the conversation, I want to give you an update. I'm over here, like all humans, feeling the Mercury retrograde, feeling Mars in a fire sign approaching that Mercury. And I'm practicing responding slowly, taking a step back. hmm. Having feelings about communication and letting it just stay there while my feelings roll as a emotional authority in human design. I'm doing my assignment, and I'm letting myself move through my emotional waves. How you doing? um, yeah. So that's happening for us. That's fun. Um, Hope that on the other side of whatever you're feeling right now, you are so thrilled that this all came up because, wow, now you've really moved through an experience that helped you get some clarity. So, calling that in for us. It's the middle of the big opening to my brand new space, Living Emergence. As of November 11th, we have 77. This is a huge, beautiful number of humans who want to come play in this very experimental, totally new space. I'm very aware that pretty much everyone in there is in there because they trust me. And yeah, I'm really holding that. Like, it's a beautiful thing to be in a place in my career where that many people will say yes to something that's untested, that as yet does not have all the glowing testimonials, that as yet doesn't have everybody talking about how it's expanding them so much. And oh my gosh, the people that I'm meeting. And oh my gosh, like, wow, that's really helping me navigate being a human here in this time. We don't have that yet. That is coming. And everyone who's there now is there in a leap of trust. It's a leap of the heart, it's a leap of desire. I'm so inspired. Thank you for all y'all who are feeling into it, listening, wondering if this is for you, inviting you in to take the leap. We are going to initiate officially on November 20th. So I really feel like that's when we begin, even though we do have lights on in the house right now. We do have like things happening. To me, it really begins on the 20th. And then we're going to close the doors for a time. And everybody who's getting in now is getting in at the founder's rate. And you get to be part of this behind the scenes of me in my own emergent process, um, listening and bringing things through, living what I teach, and supporting you and doing the same, and living bravely in a world where there are no guarantees. And we're listening to the compasses that we have. The compi, is there a proper plural for compass? And enjoying one another, along the way, because this is not a space where we're quote unquote working on ourselves. We are investing in ourselves. We are giving to ourselves and we are giving to one another. Wow. So just really holding all of that right now. And yeah, it's kind of peak sensation. So if you're interested in exploring and learning about it, encouraging you to move through the links in the show notes and get into my newsletter where I'm doing more long form writing for this. I also have other podcasts where I've talked about it. Because it's so emergent, I'm understanding what it is more every day. And so probably the newer things have the most for you, but it's also always fun to experience someone's kind of imaginal field in the creation process. So you can go through some of those October podcasts to feel into that. All right, let me introduce Xenia Viray. Xenia Marie Ross Viray, she, they, is an imagination healer, frequency artist, and creativity catalyst. She's the eldest of three sisters, and her name means kindness to strangers. Born as a brick and mortar fashion business, Myths of Creation is a container for experiment, art, writing, and gatherings at the intersection of creativity, spirituality, and meaning making. Xenia guides spirited innovators who want to bring their natural genius into form. Her offerings include Create Your Cosmology, a course in authentic belief creation, Imaginal Temple, a creative mystical mentorship, Emanate, business schools for mystics, Garden of the Imaginal Substack, and an evolving cornucopia of workshops, which you can find at mythsofcreation.com and at Myths of Creation on IG. All right. So I'm going to tell you all about how this conversation came into being through the conversation. Enjoy. Welcome to Moon, Xenia Viray. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, you really were game to come on pretty last minute here. I I have to tell you, and I hope this isn't awkward, but truly, when in Instagram, I feel so connected to your voice. I would say that your voice in the Instagram field of people that whose voices attune to, there's something in the spirit of what you share that just feels like such a deep heart resonance for me. And so it's an honor to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. I know I already said it. I wanted to let you know how much I really, really, really love your words and how you show up and what you share and the frequency with which you share. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that. It's a funny thing, this Instagram field of energy. I feel like it's brought me so much and it's so beautiful, but oftentimes I don't know who I'm talking to or how things are resonating. So it really is deeply appreciated that you're reading it and letting me know how it's landing. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I reached out to you. We first connected a few weeks ago. I was so excited to see that you were promoting this workshop that's already happened on October 30th, but recording available, called Interstellar, a workshop to connect with Three Eye Atlas. And I was just like, yes, so excited to see that something like this was happening because especially my boyfriend, my partner Matt is so excited about Three Eye Atlas. He is both like he was a physics major turned lit major, a recreational astronomer. He's also an experiencer. And so he holds both a fascination with a scientific approach to studying the sky, but also like a very metaphysical, open, what is this mystery? Like they're here. And we go to like academic um phenomenon conferences. Like we're very interested in the philosophy of the UFO together. And so he has been sending me articles from this Harvard professor on Three Eye Atlas, just like, this is important. I think we need to start meditating. And like it's just been sort of a private fascination. So just to have it come into the public forum from someone that I admire so much just felt like a jolt. Yeah, so I was curious how you found out about Three Eye Atlas, and if you might share. I mean, we don't know what it Three Eye Atlas is, but maybe someone listening doesn't know what I'm talking about. So I'd love to hear how you invite people in to the conversation around Three Eye Atlas.
Yeah, totally. So it's really cool to hear your perspective on your relationship with Three Eye Atlas, because what I was noticing in my universe is that this being Three Eye Atlas, which is called Three Eye because it's an interstellar being, meaning it doesn't come from our solar system, it comes from outside of our solar system. It's most often referred to as a comet. NASA refers to it as a comet. It's called 3I because it is the third interstellar object that has ever come into our awareness that's been tracked with data and evidence. And I actually was pretty late to hear about 3I Atlas. It was a friend of mine named Natalia Otalora who messaged me about it because Natalia had come to a workshop I did in 2023 about the green comet that was visiting our our planet back then. And when I did that workshop, I was just really called to connect with the green comet and comet energy. And I have this approach that is a lot like your boyfriend in that I am very scientific minded, but I'm not a scientist. I'm not an astronomer, even an amateur one. Um, but I think because we are very literally made of the same elements as the stars, because our bodies are 99% by molecule water, when a being like a comet comes from somewhere that is mostly made of ice, aka frozen water, there is something for us to relate to or think about in regards to a visitor that's coming just for a moment, just a temporary flash in time. And I think there's just a lot of curiosity for me around what water is and what we are that connects us to comets. So that's kind of the bigger story of me and the comet. But Natalia told me about Three Eye Atlas. And I kind of was like, okay, interested, curious, not really ready to delve into it. Let me think about it. And as I kind of put it in the back of my head, this comet just kept coming up into, it was just like popping onto different newsletters I'm on. It was appearing on different YouTube channels that I was watching. It just kept coming up. And I thought, you know what? Maybe this is really interesting. Maybe did the whole green comet experience to prepare me for this experience. Like maybe there's something here. And as I started to study it and look into it, I remember distinctly two strange things. The first thing is that I was going to the chiropractor because I have a pinched nerve in my neck. And I went there for the first time to get an assessment. And it was around when I was trying to decide if I should do this gathering. And the chiropractor was like, "Oh, your atlas is out of place in your neck." And I was like, "Okay, that's interesting." Like, okay, whatever. Like it was just like a series of things that kept bringing up this concept of Three Eye Atlas. And then the day I was trying to decide if I should do the workshop and the date it should be, I was sitting online doing some work when a friend from high school, who I haven't seen in person probably in at least 20 years, DM'd me this video about October 30th and Three Eye Atlas and the sun being at solar maximum, and how there was going to be this convergence of things that was happening on that day, and how it was such a powerful day to connect to Three Eye Atlas energetically. And I hadn't posted anything or said anything to anyone but my assistant about Three Eye Atlas at this point. And I was just like, okay, I hear you. Like, I hear you loud and clear. And so I just decided to start doing some research and investigating what this being is to me, what it could feel like to connect to it. And I pulled together some research and some ways that we could invite people to connect to the energy of this being. And that's how Interstellar came to life.
Oh my gosh, yes. Wow, atlas in your spine?
In the side of my neck, on the
The
right side of
side
my
of your neck.
neck.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Wow. And so then I'm sure we're met with a response that started to shape the direction. I'm that's me in a leading question. I'm curious about the response.
So, as I started to want to put out this workshop about Three Eye Atlas, I was doing a lot of internet research, and I was looking at a lot of different sources on the comet. Some of them were astrologers, some of them, one of the most like forerunners talking about and researching Three Eye Atlas is Stefan Burns, who has a channel on YouTube. He is a scientist and he's been tracking the astrology and the astronomy of Three Eye Atlas. And I realized that there was this cultural siloing of this topic where it was almost only people that come from what is often called, and I hesitate to say this word and I'll explain why, like the new age space, that were having conversations about this. And the demographic was a lot older, a lot of times like not the most diverse demographic. And I was just like really curious why only people that seem to be disconnected from my cultural community, or the community that I feel more familiar with, were talking about this, and nobody that I knew was talking about
Hmm.
it. And on top of that, I started seeing that there was a lot of AI videos that were coming out about AI Atlas that were taking the likenesses of people like scientist Brian Cox and reproducing his likeness to talk about Three Atlas and say things that he never said.
No.
Yes, yes. There's him and another Japanese physicist whose name is escaping me right now, but he also has a very big YouTube channel. We're being heavily impersonated by AI. I don't even know if that's a term now, impersonated. You know, they were being AI generated. And it was so interesting because I do a lot of research on YouTube, and none of that was in the ether even 3 months ago. It was just around the time where I was solidifying research specifically about this thing, where I saw this huge field of AI interviews or generated video. And all these scientists were actually petitioning YouTube to please take these things down. And I mention this because I think that when we research something or start to interact with something, including research, because research is also an interaction with a consciousness in a way, how it unfolds is teaching us something about the energy of that thing.
Hmm.
And this comet has been, a comet being whatever you want to call it, it's been really slippery from the beginning. It's been very controversial. The facts about it that come out are often really nebulous. People don't even know how big it is because it has such a cloud of dust surrounding it that no one's properly measured its coma. The guesses have been anywhere between zero point 0.3 and 22 miles. Um, so it is just this cloud of mystery, this nebulous object. And I think it has to do with the fact that as we become more multidimensional, as our consciousness becomes more multidimensional, there are more perspectives in the field, and we need to become ever more discerning, yes, from a critical thinking place, but also from an energetic place about what our relationship, our direct relationship and experience of anything that we are in relationship to.
Mm. Thank you, Three Eye Atlas. You're bringing what we need. Wow. Well, this is really fascinating because um that's what I wanted to get in with you is I notice with myself that promo the process of holding a thing teaches me about the thing, like what you're saying. And so watching someone in a promo for something, especially when they're in a very dynamic relationship with it of attunement, so much is like coming through that human, hear you, that is revealing like what's coming through that relationship. And like the very next post you had after the announcement was on the fear of being like unveiled or ridiculed or just criticized with the label New Age. And I was just so happy to hear someone speaking about this because I often think about because I'm very interested in the phenomenon, and that space doesn't seem to have the same kind of Venn diagram of people that are in my other spaces. It's interesting because there's like this fear of being misunderstood on many levels and being reduced, but then the consequence is not exploring. There's a lot of consequences. I'm curious to hear you share some of these that you spoke to.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting ride for me in this whole entire spiritual exploration that I have been doing for some time now. And this question really came into crystallization around me around what is New Age? What does it mean? What does it not mean? Where does it come from? What is our fear of it about? And in a group that I was in that was called the Future Ancestors Calling. And the person leading that group is someone who very much comes from the activist community, is very rooted in justice practices and decolonizing practices, but is also this amazing earth loving galactic sometimes channel. And what she was bringing through in that circle was a lot about quantum reality and this feeling that every breath starts a new timeline. And there were a lot of thoughts and ideas in that circle that were unexpected. And I think normally I don't come across when I'm in a room of people that are primarily interested in this case, like their South Asian lineage, like their or Southeast Asian lineage. So when she was channeling through all this information and just being this person who's so reverent of indigenous culture and ecological integrity, it really freed me in some ways because I started to see that behind closed doors, when people feel safe, a lot of people are having these conversations about the quantum, about the cosmic, about aliens and extraterrestrial life and multiple timelines. But there is such a fear of being miscategorized that the number one response that our group received when we started to share and break out into rooms about what we thought about the channeling, I would say 50% of us were like, I really want to talk about this, but I'm really afraid I'm going to be labeled as New Age. And I'd been thinking about all this way before I was in this group, but it was nice to see that I wasn't alone in it, or that there were resonances even from, our future ancestors channeling the same information that I was looking into very privately. And it is exactly this complexity that I feel like we have been entrained to be so afraid of. Complexity is just another way of saying multidimensionality when you really think about it,
Mm.
because if we are multidimensional, then there's different perspectives to look at the same thing. And I find that it's very suspicious to live in a time and culture when simply bringing something up quickly attaches to a category of person, a label, an archetype, an image, a pop culture meme, what have you, um, that is in the field of information, tells me that there is someone trying to actively discourage us from having these conversations.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is that it's not even about what we're saying that gets us judged, it's the fact that we're even asking about it or bringing it up that often gets us judged. And if we can't ask questions about something, then we become agents of our own censorship. And so, how are we supposed to create intimacy or solidarity when everyone's holding their breath?
Yep. And I feel like we're looping back to this piece you were speaking to earlier about really interrogating like what you're looking at.
Yeah, I think it's really scary, I think, because I recently posted like a silly video about Halloween costumes at a senior center, and someone was like, "This is an AI generated community." And I was like, well, luckily, this is of no consequence, but like, I didn't know. I couldn't
Yeah.
tell. And a lot of us, we're born at the first and only time where humanity will experience the internet not existing and then becoming part of everyday life. And now here we are going through it again with AI generated imagery. And I don't even know if we can comprehend what the impact of this will be, but this question of what is sentient, this question of discernment, it's gone from being like theoretical and philosophical into something you need to understand every day.
Yeah. Yeah, and including AI itself. Cuz I feel like if, like my tarot deck is sentient to me, why couldn't AI also be sentient in a conversation with me? But what do I mean when I say that? And like what are the consequences of the meaning that I'm making about it for who I believe myself to be as a person of agency in the world? Like these are huge. Not pretending to have any answers.
Totally. I mean, I think that where I have landed in general is that I think that I'm really interested in talking to people who aren't going right into good or bad, like right into this is going to save us or this is going to kill us, and want to understand that our consciousness is always going to influence the tools that we are co creating with. So, just like other things we have invented, they can be weaponized. It can be weaponized, and it can probably also be used to solve problems. So I feel like the cool thing about asking about sentience is it like suddenly makes this question of animism and the spirit that runs through everything really relevant in modern day when that's been dismissed for such a long time in the sort of normative cultural context.
Yeah. I remember Adrienne Marie Brown early in quarantine posting something like, "What if COVID is a sentient being here to help us?" And I was like, that's the question of the moment. I want to
Well,
ask questions like that.
totally. Totally. And like, I was actually, I don't know if I told you this, but I had this reading in July 17th of 2017, where this same teacher who taught Future Ancestors Calling told me that I would meet a teacher in the early spring of 2020 when I was in the Philippines, but she couldn't say what it was. And I fully believe, after reflecting on this a lot, that it was COVID.
Oh my gosh. I have full body shivers. Whoa.
Yeah.
Hmm. I do, I mean, holding all of it, right? Holding all of it. I was just thinking the other day, wow, COVID really helped us release that one. It was just about something simple like saying yes when we really don't want to go to something, you know?
Yeah.
And yet, that's a big one actually when it comes to the energy you hold in a day and what do you want to turn towards with it.
Yeah, and we had to learn how to become really good at knowing what we required to feel safe or what we required to feel connected. And we learned all of us needed different things. And we still had to figure out to how to live together and how to remember we were in it together. So it really, yeah, I'm, not trying to minimize the terrible things that came as a consequence or say that I know why it happened, but saying I can for sure say I learned a lot through living through that experience.
Wow. um yeah, so then the next um one of the next posts that you had in that promo, I mean, to me, feels very you. And also, I'm noticing that you spoke of this a lot in the pathway there is about love as a doorway and opening into love. And I am curious if that was something that was coming through, like in meditation, or like how this became kind of the language that needed to be here for this.
Yeah, I have been really working deeply with this body of work from someone named Georgia Jean. She's also a channel. She channels these beings called the Circle of Light. And one of the things they talk about is how our heart has a blueprint and how we have these projectors that we can put our consciousness through. One is the mind and the other is the heart. And we run it through the mind. Reality reflects the mind. And when we run it through the heart, something very different happens. Um, that we learn how to transmute things through loving and accepting them, because from an aspect of us that is our divine source, we can see that thing as a part of us. I understand the resistance to seeing things that simply, but I kind of feel like in the trajectory of my own career and life, my mind has kind of done everything for me as the driver of reality that it's ever going to do. And I don't mean like I'm done using my mind, but having it be the creative director of my life. There was this like distinct moment in April of this past year where I was like, yep, that's as far as we can go with this. Like this mind is here to strategize based on past data to extrapolate the future from the past. It's here to take things that are whole and cut them up and see how to rearrange them. And I kind of feel like I'm headed to a space, and the collective is headed to a space where we have to let something in that is more connected to the sense that we are all part of something bigger than what our mind can fully comprehend. And not like let Jesus take the wheel vibes, but more like, okay, like let's look at the sky and where all the planets are and the mycelium network and the trees, and like whatever created this created me. So that feels like love. Like that feels like the animating force of the universe feels like love. So how do I get out of the way and stop trying to control everything and engineer everything and become more of a vessel for this thing that I'm a part of that I cannot take credit for inventing?
Mhm. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah, this feels so important, and it this is how shame became such a big part of my work, is just noticing like where it's where the opening feels hard, you know?
Yeah,
And also it's like it feels like this love that you're speaking to in the animated world can actually be what alchemizes that shame for us, you know, rather than having to trying to think our way through it, you know?
totally. And I love that you brought up this concept of shame because that is a very alive concept for me in my body. It's a live feeling for me. And when I think about the consciousness of shame, it just goes to the sentence like, you shouldn't exist. You should not be here. You should go hide. And we can do that on, we can project that onto any part of us, like we can be even ashamed of things that other people might consider good qualities in us. We might want to hide that, but just this feeling of this should not exist. When I think about everything in existence as interrelated or as a fractal of the divine, somehow, to say that somehow something shouldn't breathe or live or be examined, it just feels very disconnective and almost violent when I'm looking through the lens of all of this is consciousness, including me, and how can I
Mm.
relate to this? So, yeah, I think like love is just kind of like, I see you. I don't know why you're there, but I got to see you. You exist. Okay.
Mhm.
What are you trying to teach me? How can I learn by pulling you closer instead of hiding you somewhere?
Yeah. And I will say that, when I have meditated with Three Eye Atlas, you know, in my on the floor in my bedroom, it has really I have felt this, like, sense of deep love coming in and, just kind of turning everything in my space into love, just like the best feeling.
Mm.
Um, choosing to believe it was real because it felt real. I'll take it. But
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that I was listening to Susie Miller, who had a gathering to connect with the consciousness of Three Eye Atlas. Susie Miller is known for her work with autistic children, non speaking autistic children, and some adults. And she came into my awareness because she was interviewed in the telepathy tapes. And one of the things she said was that the kids were communicating to her that they were so excited about this comet because they said, it's just like us. It's just like us. We're so excited for this. And when she did her gathering, she shared a similar overwhelming feeling of love, just as did this other astrologer, Heather, I think her last name is Ensworth, who did a whole YouTube video on Three Eye Atlas, just feeling this immense amount of love. And I think that in my sort of research around comets in general, I have noticed, at least from Rudolf Steiner's point of view, and this other philosopher, mathematician, astronomer, Elizabeth Vreed, who was Dutch, that they talk about comets or anything comet like being what brings in new consciousness. and they sort of juxtapose it to the moon. They see the moon as something that's very much like, that's almost like this satellite that's carried around, and it needs to stay there in the orbit. It's presenting something really static, whereas the comet kind of comes in when it does a job needs to be done, it needs to bring in some kind of awareness. And Rudolf Steiner also said that it often dissipates when it's finished doing its work. And this comet, if you look at the trajectory of it, it's so wild. Or I mean, I guess if you even want to call it a comet, this interstellar object, because the other two objects, if you look at images of their trajectory, they come, if our whole solar system is in one flat plane, one ecliptic plane, and other interstellar objects, there have been two, have come either from the top and then looped around and then exited kind of back from the direction they came from. So almost coming at us from a 90-degree angle, or they've kind of come in and come out. And 3i Atlas is 5 degrees off of the plane of our solar system. So it's just in line with our solar system. It's traveling very much aligned. And as it makes its way through our solar system, it is connecting with different planets that happen to be in its line of travel as they are rotating around the sun. And oftentimes it's like right before a full moon, right before a new moon, right before like right before the solstice, it'll come close to Earth on the eve of the Sagittarius new moon. Like it's always just a few days before. And when you start to just like look at and track this being, it just feels like it's telling this really specific story to us. So when you add everything all together, the consciousness of this, and even just the joke of it being called 3i, like third eye.
I know.
It's just like, if you're not curious, I wonder why, like there's so many invitations and so many ways and opportunities to just look at the symbolism of this being coming into our solar system. I mean, people are estimating it's been traveling for like potentially 10 billion years to get here. We don't even know where it came from. Astrologically, it came from the galactic center, but before that, we don't know. So it's just such a cool messenger for these times when what we need is curiosity, when what
Yeah.
we need is discernment.
Mm. Yeah, it almost feels like Mary Poppins, like we dreamed it up and like now it's here to help us as a family. Oh gosh, it's so beautiful. Yeah, that feels connected to another point you were making, which I'm just was so excited to hear you speak to, was the importance of individuation versus separation, when the truth is when like the foundation that we're working with is, of course, we're all one large being and we're all connected, then we can get into individuation. I'm curious how that came through as part of this whole period of your study.
Yeah, like I remember towards the end of 2019 or maybe early 2020, I just kept thinking about Aquarius like a lot. I am an Aquarius rising, but I was thinking about it a lot, and I kept thinking, why is this the archetype of like the collective and humanity and the humanitarian, but also the rebel and in the individual? Like, why is it the same thing? Like, what is going on with that? How can it be both? And then I started understanding sort of how I see things ecologically is everything has to be what it is or the whole doesn't work. Like everything has to follow the animistic force of creativity inside of it, or yeah, the big picture just doesn't work. And when I think about individuation, I talk about that a lot because clearly we're in a culture where there are some problematic versions of hyper individualism, which I think is just this assumption that I can separate myself from everybody else and just take care of myself and focus on me. And it doesn't matter how I'm impacting anyone. And obviously that's problematic, but it's seated in this assumption that you can separate yourself from anything, that that is even a logical position. And it's just not. It's just not, because like you need the trees to breathe, they need you to breathe. And like our the way that we even produce oxygen comes from some like choreography that connects like deserts and oceans and like tiny algae for us to have like the air and the atmosphere that keeps us here. So I think that individuation is only dangerous to talk about when we have not yet acknowledged that we are so connected, that like particles are entangled, that the elements in our bodies are the same elements as the stars by over like 90 something percent. So I feel like this is an era of time where when we're coming from the mind or sort of linear thinking, we can think that being part of the collective means flattening yourself to be the same as other people, use the same language as other people, see the same cosmology as other people. And I think that the more we each become more of ourselves, the more we all become leaders, the more we all become authorities. And that means we have to kind of take the risk of saying, I don't see it exactly how my teacher sees it. I don't see it exactly how the institution teaches it or how my best friend sees it. And to be okay with that.
Yes. Yes, I do feel that, like, calling on the comets to help us with, holding disagreement, with love. Because I think so many of us, down to, like, family systems, feel, like, unskilled, and clumsy and even terrorized by the idea of disagreement. So, building capacity for that.
Totally. And like, as you're saying that, it really makes me wonder if that confusion and terror is not partially manufactured culturally. Like if it's, was it something our ancient animistic ancestors dealt with? Maybe because of survival and needing to be cooperative with each other. Maybe there did need to be a level of letting agreeing to disagree, but I don't know. I feel like the level of fear and terror around that now, it doesn't feel wholly organic to me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's to clearing the distortions. Yeah, so I'm curious if you are open to sharing, anything about the data that you've been holding from the workshop or since. I mean, how have things begun to shift for you since you held the space?
Yeah. I think that I'm still kind of feeling into my own relationship with 3i because it was hard to drop in as much as I wanted to while I was kind of in data collection mode. But something that occurred during the actual gathering was people were having very, very somatic, visceral responses inside the meditation that we were doing to interact with 3i Atlas. And we did this very deep journey so that we could each meet this being in a way that could be perceived by our eyes or our intuition or our, our way of our sight, our imaginative sight. And what I was hearing across the board from those who reached out to me and shared their experience was just so visceral and so, yeah, everyone had just these really big somatic bodily experiences. And when we were in the meditation, which I usually don't really plan mine, I just like to see how they want to go or what wants to happen. We were taken in through the portal of looking into a flower or a plant and then landing in the cosmos. So I think there is always this reminder that the separation between being really earthy or feeling very galactic or cosmic, it's like, hello, like our sun is a star from the perspective of another planet. We're the aliens, we're the ones in the cosmos. Like our food is grown by a starlight that our plants know how to turn into energy without producing heat. Like they transform starlight from far away into food and energy. So there was just this reminder or sense that we don't need to see these things as so far out or so foreign or so strange. And like looking out at the cosmos and wondering what life is there, I think that will be to us in 20 or maybe longer. In like 200 years, it'll be like, oh, yeah, there's other continents that we've never been to. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
we'll think of a time before as like so archaic and weird to think like we're the only life that exists. And yeah, I think it's just remembering that the earth is in relationship to the cosmos all the time. And you can be a grounded person and still be really curious about these things and really revering of indigenous, forms of knowledge at the same time. That's very much the message that I've been receiving.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for coming and exploring these with me. These topics, they're so big and also right here. I love it. Yeah, I was just seeing scientists discovered, I don't know how long ago this was, so I presumed it just happened, but like 400 miles beneath the surface of the earth, there's this huge reservoir of water that's just been discovered. Like, what is down there? It's also like, yeah, I know. I knew it. It's so cool. Um, I do think all of this is expanding our capacity to be like question askers and curious, building our own data and expertise, so to speak, while also just knowing like we don't know where we're going with these questions. Like it's just
Yeah,
building the mystery muscle, the mystery practice for us, which is so loving after several hundred years of like the encyclopedia and all the ways we've thought that knowledge and everything could be like put in a book and closed. There we have it. There's the answer. Feels
yeah.
really good for us to just practice this and be able to also just say, I don't even know. I don't know.
Totally. And, I think it's so cool you mentioned this like water and the inside of the earth because there's like the research of Veda Austin and some other people around water. And it's like I read an experiment about this scientist who put DNA in water and then diluted it so it was technically no longer present, but then could record the electromagnetic field of the water holding the code of that DNA and transmitting it to other bodies of water that it wasn't touching, like through the air. And so these questions around like, what is in the earth? What are the comets? What are we? Like it all comes down to like, what are we? Like what is this existence? Like, how does this work? What's possible? And I feel like the more open minded we are, the more we can have hope and make changes and do things differently. So I feel like, yeah, curiosity is part of love.
Mm, mhm. And you also support your community in, like, I don't know what language you use. Is it like repairing the imagination, reconvening with the imagination? Like, how do you like to describe it? Because it feels part of the same thing.
Yeah, I just call it imagination healing because,
Mhm.
yeah, I feel like there's a lot of our own genius we were talked out of because we were taught like it wasn't serious because it was too, yeah, too imaginative, too playful, too creative. And I feel like that's part of what's coming back online. And it's just about not immediately shutting something down just because other people told you that that wasn't possible.
Yeah. Mm. Thank you so much. So we'll have the link to the workshop in the space. How long do you think you'll keep it active? Or
I think at least through the end of November, maybe even to the winter solstice. So just, or yeah, because I know that, yeah, 3i will be closest to Earth on December 19th. So at least through the winter solstice.
yeah, I always feel that recordings hold like the times it like asynchronous doesn't matter when it comes to holding the magic of community doing it all at the same time. Like
Totally.
time is funny there, can play.
I agree. And I feel like when I tune into things, like even again for a second time out of time, it's like really wild how I hear new and different things in new ways.
Always. Yeah. And sometimes I feel like I'm just the kind of auditory processor that being able to pause and like maybe rewind it just a second, like, okay, wait, I want to hear that again. Like there's something nice about being able to do it on my own stretch. So yeah, I'm really a big fan of asynchronous magic. So anything else you want to share about like how listeners can be connected to imagination healing and the other ways that you support people?
Yeah, sure. So I have a Substack called Garden of the Imaginal, and you can go to my website, mythsofcreation.com, and you can see links to the Substack and my newsletter there. And I am very active on Instagram. My handle is at Myths of Creation. So you can also find me there.
Do you do one-on-one work or mostly groups?
I do mostly groups, but I also do one-on-one work. And right now my books are open. I have a couple sessions open for November. And what I do is I work with bibliomancy, a little bit of tarot. Sometimes I look at people's human design charts, but I kind of look at the whole thing and see what patterns are there. So that door is open right now too.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much, Xenia.
Thank you, Britten.
Thank you, Xenia. Thank you so much for that rich, expansive, exciting conversation, listeners. If you're feeling drawn to Xenia's voice, please check out her links in the bio here, the show notes, rather. And if you're feeling called to the workshop, there's a link below. It's available through November. And for everyone who is feeling into living emergence, joining this home world for magic, for molting, for intuition, for listening to and participating with your voice as you navigate being here year round, inviting you to come into living emergence at the founders level here by November 20th when we initiate together. Please, please, please reach out to me if you have any questions. Can't wait to support you inside. Cheers.